welcome to HITC Sport. Thank Christ that is over. No more January transfer window. Journalists up and down the country cream themselves at the thought of scribbling down whatever rumours they thought up on their way to work or when they were taking their morning dump.
Pinjani to Liverpool, Messi to Chelsea, oh, Shefki Kuchi to Newcastle.
Oh wait, no, that one actually happened. Now don't get me wrong, it used to be a good day. I mean, I used to get pumped for this as a kid. You know, on the rare occasions where I was actually allowed into the house. I'd turn on the television, look at Jim White feeding us stories on a Jermaine Defoe transfer, before just scuttling back to live in the piss-stained box at the end of the yard. When did I lose the love for transfer deadline day? Probably when the likes of Peter Odemwingie stopped showing up outside random clubs and begging them to sign him. It's a bit like a past Tinder date gone wrong, finding your home address, and then showing up at 2 AM drunk, naked and crying and refusing to leave until your fat Uncle Tony escorts her off the property. Like, transfer deadline days just aren't the same without Harry Redknapp hanging out of a car window, with 4 of his 6 chins spilling onto his shoulder, as he just tells everyone that he's, signing Nico Kranker again. I haven't seen Nico Kranker in a while. Wouldn't be surprised if he was chained to Harry's porch. Anyway, let's take a look at all the big stories, the big happenings of the day. Although, fair warning lads, not much happened. I wonder how Callum Hudson-Odoi spent his transfer deadline day. Probably curled up in a fetal position, naked and crying in the shower, with a big bottle of whiskey in hand. Wait, is this fella even old enough to drink? Like a sulky teenager continuously threatening to move out, Chelsea have effectively told the kid he's going nowhere. And if he does, they're just gonna break his legs. Lads, I have to be honest, I thought Peter Crouch's Premier League days were over. The man just turned 38 on Wednesday. As thousands of you were only delighted to remind me when I did this video, the man has spent the last 6 months not scoring and just flogging his book. How has he bagged himself a return to the top flight with Burnley? I mean, I would say that Vokes is a better striker. I mean, I'm delighted for Crouch, but I can't help but be confused about what Sean Dyche is going to do with a nearly 40-year-old lamppost. Marouane Fellaini has finally been expelled and banished from the British Isles, given a 250k per week contract at Shandong Luneng, with some Man United fans wiping some tears of joy out of their eyes. Coupled with Anthony Martial's new contract, for some this is probably the happiest day of their life. And yes, I include the marriage and birth of their kids, but I think Fellaini deserves respect. Yes, he's big and awkward, but he's actually a good player. Like, you do not spend 10 years in the top 6 or 7 of the Premier League if you're not. He's played 177 games for both Everton and Man United respectively, scoring 33 goals for the former and 22 for the latter. He's big, he's gangly, but he's a presence. Why do you think Belgium always throw him in the squad, despite it being jam-packed with skillful entertainers? Let's not forget he was the one who popped up with their first goal of the 2014 World Cup. I remember all too well because I was in Belgium for it. People just assume,
oh, Fellaini, he's big, he's tall. David Moyes signed him twice. Therefore, he can't pass the ball.
No, he's a damn good player. And with the amount of flack he's had, lad, go enjoy your money in China. Newcastle have actually broken their transfer record. Christ above. There are generally some of ye who weren't even alive the last time Newcastle broke their record, which is just a complete and utter farce. The last time the club broke the record was in 2005. They then went to beat Man City 2 weeks later. Again, the last time they would get a league win over them until this week. Jesus Christ, Newcastle fans must feel like they're living in some sort of sticky, wet dream. Well, if that's the case, then where the is Cheryl Cole? Is Miguel Almiron worth 21 million? For Newcastle's sake, let's hope so. He's a Paraguayan number 10, arriving from Atlanta United. Basically, he'll inject a bit of creativity into the team and hopefully shove the likes of Kennedy further and further into the goddamn cloakroom. Aboubacar Kamara has gone off to Turkey. I'm just confused why anyone would touch this man with a barge pole after the month he's had. After stealing a penalty off the club's top goal scorer, then missing it, then getting arrested at training. As if Claudio Ranieri, the cheerful granddad of the Premier League, is saying that he hates you, then I think it's pretty much fair to say that you're Satan himself. But the fans of Yeni Malatyaspor seem delighted to have signed Aboubacar Kamara. I can only assume they've never seen him play. Don't let it get to your head, Kamara. I remember the time they signed Darius Vassell and treated him as a second coming of Christ, despite having a goal scoring record that would make a nun cry. Mind you, not everyone is delighted with the transfer. This fella looks like he only signed him because his wife and kids are being held at ransom in an underground basement somewhere off the East Coast. But if you thought the Turkish fans had made a fuss over Kamara, oh good lord. You can imagine how they treated someone who once played at Manchester United. Shinji Kagawa was lucky to make it out of his Istanbul unveiling alive. To be honest, I'm surprised the Japanese international has bit the bullet and resigned himself to Turkish football via Besiktas before he's even hit 30 years of age. Purely because I remember when he first arrived in England, I had legions of Manchester United fans telling me what a world-class talent he was. But if that was true, surely he wouldn't now be wallowing in a cesspit filled with Jermaine Lens, Gary Medel, and Ricardo Quaresma desperately searching for that potential and promise he had 15 years ago. Never really made sense to me that Sebastian Giovinco spent his prime years in the MLS with Toronto FC. It was kind of like when a 15-year-old played against a bunch of his younger brother's mates at five-a-side. Like, yes, we get it, you're the best player here, well done. Like, what exactly are you trying to prove? Maybe Giovinco had a tiny penis, I don't know. But the former Juventus player has finally quit bullying defenders who can't defend on a weekly basis and now is being spat out to an even more obscure league, Saudi Arabia with Al Hilal, which honestly just sounds like an Uncle Ben sauce. According to Giovinco, he would have even stayed at Toronto for less money, so I don't know what happened there. Gary Cahill has turned down half of Claudio Ranieri's CV this month: Fulham, Monaco and Juventus. Now the first two I can understand, but Juventus? Lad, you're a 32-year-old centre-back, sitting on the bench with no hope of getting a game. What are you doing turning down the champions of Serie A? Turning down Juventus and Fulham in one breath. That's like me heading out and rejecting dates off Jessica Alba and the town drunk. Although, to be honest, considering the way ad revenue is going, that's going to be me in 5 years anyway. Arsenal snap up Denis Suarez, who should be a fairly decent signing considering Unai Emery had him at Sevilla, but he's just a little bit confusing. He's pretty much the same position as Mesut Ozil. You know, the same lad who doesn't fit the system. It's like dumping your ex-girlfriend because you hate her taste in music, and then hooking up with someone at a Pitbull concert. Okay, what is Youri Tielemans doing at Leicester City? I'm sorry, this just does not make sense to me. This is a 21-year-old Belgian midfielder who Monaco signed for big money 2 years ago. How the hell has he been allowed to end up at Leicester City on loan? I mean, great signing for them, but Monaco. I don't know who's running that club, sacking managers and then rehiring them within 4 months, but they're going to the dogs. Anyway, that was essentially just a very quick roundup on basically today. Kind of just spat it out. Did you enjoy it? I mean, I warned you from the start that nothing really happened, but you stayed anyway, so for that, I thank you very much. I'm trying to hit 200k. If you could smash that subscribe button, that would be very much appreciated. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give a like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I'll talk to you in a while.